Small businesses are such easy targets, and I have seen the most horrendous passwords that are protecting people's entire livelihood. Like, I love cybersecurity. I don't think that the company was the right fit, and I was not being challenged enough. I don't know, I want to say I was bored, but I was honestly bored.
But you have in fact gotten into cybersecurity. You have a lot of knowledge on cybersecurity, cyber topic. However, you've decided to create your own thing, your own business outside what I would say the realms of security.
Yeah, so I have always been in love with web design. I was discouraged by a lot of tech professionals because they were like, that's not going to be a job in the future. Like, that's not going to be a thing that you'll need. So I ended up just going a completely different route.
We were actually voice noting each other on Instagram, and you're like, I don't know if cybersecurity is for me.
I remember seeing my manager's calendar one day, and from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m., he was in back-to-back calls. And I was like, if this is what success means at this company, I don't want it.
Today, we have an extremely special guest. We're joined by Rebecca. Now, Rebecca is, in fact, actually a cybersecurity professional. So she completed her degree in cybersecurity, and then she worked at a Fortune 500 company. She is a founder of a highly successful web development, web design, and process automation business, which she's going to tell us a lot more about today. Rebecca is also part of the Cyber Collective, where she contributes massively to security and privacy initiatives to educate the masses on how to keep their data secure and private.
This is Cybersecurity Uncomplicated with Cyber Queen, where we break barriers one chat at a time. No one has the exact roadmap, but together we're challenging stereotypes. We'll show you that cybersecurity is for everyone. We're bold, smart, and unapologetically diverse.
So, Rebecca, I am so excited to speak with you today. Welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to be here.
As a cybersecurity professional, a lot of people are talking about getting into cybersecurity, but you have in fact gotten into cybersecurity. You have a lot of knowledge on cybersecurity, cyber topic, the whole industry. However, you've decided to create your own thing, your own business outside what I would say the realms of security. And so let's talk a little bit about that. Can you tell us about the journey, how this came about?
Yeah, so I have always been in love with web design. When I was a sophomore in high school, I started to learn how to do basic coding, so like HTML, CSS, JavaScript. And web design was actually what I always thought I would do. But to be completely honest, I was discouraged by a lot of tech professionals because they were like, that's not going to be a job in the future. Like, that's not going to be a thing that you'll need. So I ended up just going a completely different route. I happened to be in one of the best schools for cybersecurity, like close to it for college. So I ended up studying cybersecurity, and I ended up really, really enjoying it. I'm sure we'll talk about this later, but I was just really blown away by how many different parts of cybersecurity there were. College was so much fun because there was digital forensics and cryptography, and then, just all the things that you can do in the space. So I ended up getting my bachelor's degree in cybersecurity. I, like you said, ended up getting a corporate job at a Fortune 500 company. And I love cybersecurity. I don't think that the company was the right fit, and I was not being challenged enough, or I don't know, I want to say I was bored, but I was honestly bored. I'm a creative person, so I need to also be creating, and you can create in cybersecurity, it just looks different. So I ended up quitting 6 months into my very first corporate job, which was so scary for me because I just signed a lease to a new apartment. Nobody wants to not have a job after graduating college. So took a really, really big risk on myself and decided to fully pursue web design, web development. I already had those skills. When you study cybersecurity, you're already learning how to code. A lot of these skills are interchangeable or linked together. They are related in multiple different ways. So yeah, that's kind of how I ended up here. While I was in college, I was also freelancing. I did photography, I did videography, I worked with influencers creating content. So I was already really comfortable with the concept of going off on my own and owning my own business or bringing in income on my own without having to work for a company. And yeah, that's essentially how I ended up here. It was a little bit of a weird journey, basically web design, cybersecurity, back to web design. But like you mentioned, I still have cybersecurity show up in my work in so many different ways. And that's been the most fun thing to discover, is that just because I decided to go a different route doesn't mean that all of this time that I invested into cybersecurity isn't still valuable or worthwhile. There's so many ways to tie it back into what I do now. And yeah, it's been an exciting thing to work through and explore.
I love hearing that, because I think personally, like, you're the perfect fit, like on the application side, on the automation side, and the web development side, because so many small business owners especially don't know how to provision these aspects of their business securely, right? Like, it's so necessary for getting their brand out there and all these things. But then a lot of people end up spinning up a fast WordPress site with not having considered security at all. And I mean, you have kind of that built in. You're like certified to be able to help them in this aspect. So I feel like that is so cool. But I don't think a lot of people know this. And going now way back on the journey of you and I actually finding each other online. But I remember when I first started Instagram, you had started your corporate job and we were actually voice noting each other on Instagram. And you're like, I don't know if cybersecurity is for me, all of these things. But then we had discussed, and it was like based on the company, basically, not on like the industry as a whole, I would say. And so what's your experience? Like, what made it get to the fact that it's the final straw for you to be like, you know what, like, I don't know if this is the right fit, whether it's the company or the industry. I don't know. Let me just go pursue this full time.
Yeah, I feel like this is going to be a hot take. Like, this might ruffle some feathers. But so I graduated college during the pandemic, which also did not help. I immediately I had to do my last internship online, and then I got my first corporate job, and it was all online. And I love the people on my team. I'm still connected with some of them. So obviously nothing against the people. Truly was just like not the right job fit for me. But I was just in calls all day. And then I remember seeing my manager's calendar one day, and from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m., he was in back-to-back calls. And I was like, if this is what success means at this company, I don't want it. And that's essentially kind of what made me leave. I was just so sad being in my home alone during COVID, every single day, 9 to 5, every single week. And then on top of that, not enjoying the work. If I enjoyed the work, maybe it would have been better, but that just wasn't a part of it. So like I said, I was already freelancing in college, so I still had a few side projects, and my side projects would always bring me a lot more joy because I'd get to be creative and, just show up in different ways and bring those parts of myself there. But we were talking earlier, and you mentioned that some people, they start in cybersecurity, or somebody that you interviewed started in cybersecurity. They're off to see the world, but they know that they want to come back later. I think that was so interesting, because I am so open to going back to a cybersecurity job. I feel like, especially now, I know so much more about what I could do and all the different roles that there are. But yeah, long-winded answer. Essentially, I saw my manager's calendar and I was like, this is not my goal. My goal is not to be a manager. I know that like management does have to come into it, but the way that it looked at that company just wasn't appealing, and it wasn't the lifestyle that I was working towards. And entrepreneurship did allow me to get the lifestyle that I was looking for, essentially.
Yeah, I mean, it's so important to feel fulfilled. It's so important to have that aspect of like realizing early on too. And I love that for you, because it's like early on in the journey, you're like, no. And like, this is not what I want. I don't want to sit in back-to-back meetings, where a lot of like it, for some people, it takes years to identify like, this is absolutely not what I want, so it's definitely interesting. And then it also speaks to the different avenues that there are in cybersecurity, right? Because I too have been in many different spaces in cybersecurity. Mm-hmm. And one that I did not like, that was like completely not for me at all, where I would consider leaving cybersecurity, was like being in, now I will ruffle some feathers, but being in the governance, risk and compliance side, I did not like it at all. Maybe it was the job I had, I don't know, but it was more about spreadsheets and filling in controls that were missing. And it was more a kind of control evaluation in the role I had in that space. But I didn't like it, it wasn't for me. And so I knew that I had to move back to more technical. Otherwise, like kind of mundane, repetitive thing that I didn't like. So I think that's like super important.
Yeah.
But now, yeah, for sure.
I was going to say my job was in governance, risk, and compliance. And I think that's definitely why, as a creative, like that's just not where I was supposed to be. And I see other people in cybersecurity jobs where it is more technical. And I know that I probably would have enjoyed that more. Also, in my internships, I was doing technical things like automating security protocols, all these different things. And I really enjoyed that. But then when I got the job, I was placed somewhere else. And I was like, I am spending every single day of my life in Excel. And this is just not what I was envisioning when I was thinking about future corporate Rebecca while I was in college. So just to say, yeah, that was not to talk down on governance, risk, and compliance because we need them, but it was not a good fit for me. And I also, one thing I guess I kind of got to do while I was there too was security awareness, which kind of like leads into the work that I do with Cyber Collective, which is crazy how those things were connected. But I also got to do like the fake phishing emails that you send out to the company, and then you block people's internet access if they fail and didn't take the training. So that whole side was fun to me too. And I think that was a little bit more creative, but yeah, I'll just say I agree with that.
Okay, so now the governance people watching or listening can come back. Like, please come back. Like, we have good things to say later.
Truly, yeah, not all that. Not all.
So let's go to the things that we like, right? So technical. So now in your business, I mean, you tell us a little bit about your business and what you do now and how is that going?
Yeah. So it's going really good so far. This next upcoming year will be 4 years of running my business full time, which is crazy. 5 years is typically when small businesses fail. So I feel like I'm already beating the odds by making it this far, which is super fun. I work with a variety of businesses truly in all industries. So I have nonprofits. I have like farmers in Iowa. I did like a random Dairy Queen franchise website. So there's just coming a whole bunch of different industries coming together. But I primarily work with mid to small size businesses, and then a lot of nonprofits as well too is kind of the niche that I found. And then also personal brands, I'll sprinkle that one in there too. But I build on platforms like Shopify or Squarespace or Webflow. I'm really big on making websites easier for businesses. I don't want to trap people with my services. And I feel like I see that a lot with web developers where they make their clients dependent on them. And I'm really big on building a website that they can maintain on their own, where if they want to hire me, they can hire me. I can come back and help them out, but you don't need to spend $8,000 on a web developer in order to update a page or something along those lines. So that's kind of where I live, the space that I've been in. And then, yeah, now doing process automation has been a lot of fun. I've done a lot of that for Cyber Collective and a lot of my clients, again, all around just trying to make people's lives easier, trying to make your website do a lot of work for you so that you can go back to doing what you enjoy. But yeah, that's high level of what I do. I'm trying to think, did you ask me something else? I'm sorry, my brain is blanking a little bit.
No, that's perfect. That's perfect. What I wanted to ask though is then you say that you working a lot with process automation. Can you tell us what that is? What do you mean?
Yeah. So with process automation, essentially all the little admin tasks that bog business owners down. So when somebody reaches out to you on your website, like let's make an automated email that tells them a little bit more about their services or the services that you have to offer, how they can prepare for the call, like all of the little things that you want to do to make sure your clients are getting a thorough, like well thought out experience, but trying to not do it manually. And another way that this shows up is just like for Cyber Collective, for example, when we post on our blog, we want that to automatically get pushed out to LinkedIn, pushed out to Twitter, and pushed out to multiple platforms. So that's an example of a process automation, but it can go really, really deep. The tools that I use there are Zapier. And then if you've ever heard of Airtable, it's basically a database platform where you can truly build anything. So we built like custom CRMs, custom workflow processes where somebody can submit a form, it creates a task, it'll email you when the task is almost done. So truly just automating the entire process and making it so that like the reminders are being sent, all of the little mundane things that people get caught up on, especially, I don't know, for me, I have ADHD and sending an email will I will wait 3 days because I just don't want to do it. And my brain is like not letting me, allowing me to do it. So anything that I can take away so that it's like less demand on like your time, basically.
Oh my gosh. I think I'm genuinely saying this, like not just because I'm trying to like get into a space where I have less demand on my time and kind of can clear my mind, but I think it's so needed. I mean, what you're doing is so needed, especially for like small business owners to start to thrive in their space, right? Because otherwise you have like one person or two people, or people think that they need more people, but what they need is better processes, right? And if those processes are even automated, it's so much better.
Yeah, and it's a lot of pressure. I this year got my first assistant, which has been like a huge milestone in my business to finally have some help. But it's a lot of pressure to have somebody that's relying on you for like a paycheck, essentially. So before you have to commit to hiring other people, just taking away some of those tasks with automation is essentially where I come in and, you know, just lessen the load for, and just to say, or like you were saying, small businesses, especially small businesses, you have 8 billion things to worry about and it's all on you versus when you're at a company and there's multiple people to help you out. So trying to like make your website your most efficient employee, essentially.
It's the first time I've heard that. Like, that's amazing. Making your website your most efficient employee. I love that. Okay. So then let's talk a little bit about how would you incorporate some of the security considerations that like other people maybe trying to establish a business similar to yours wouldn't be thinking about, and where versus you would?
Yeah. So I think because I work with mid to small size businesses, it's not that you mentioned WordPress earlier, and I have a lot of clients actually that are coming from WordPress because their WordPress website was hacked because it wasn't built properly and the developers weren't thinking about security. And WordPress is an important tool, and I think there's times where it's the perfect fit, but for most mid to small size businesses, there's just other tools that work better and take care of some of those things. So the platforms I build on have security built in, so where it's not something that my clients have to stress about if I, you know, or somebody else that works on their website did something properly. So I'd say the tools that I pick, I'm just very selective because I am the person that will read the terms and conditions. And I feel comfortable going into the privacy policy and like checking it out and seeing what's going on. So I try to only recommend tools that align with my values as far as data practices goes, but also tools that have security built in. So it's not an additional expense or something that you need to, again, now pay like thousands of dollars to developers to go back and fix the code that wasn't created correctly. And then I was saying this earlier, but I think especially because I'm working with mid to small size businesses, it's a lot of reinforcing the basics. So reminding them to use strong passwords, multi-factor authentication, maybe setting them up with a password manager, or, you know, like recommending other tools, VPNs and whatnot. I'd want to say the passwords is probably the biggest piece. There are often times where clients have to send me their passwords because I'm the one, you know, going into the account and connecting things and whatnot. And I have seen the most horrendous passwords that are protecting people's entire livelihood, like $1 million like a month e-commerce store and the password is like a 5-letter word. And I'm like, we can't do that. Like that has to change. So it's insane, especially coming from the cybersecurity background where I'm like paranoid and all of my passwords are 24 characters long with, you know, all the things that you could possibly have. It's a lot of just reinforcing like why these things are important and like reminding them to be careful, data privacy practices. I recently just helped somebody go through the process of like signing up with a service like Incogni, because I think like as a business owner, if somebody wanted to, or let me back up, small businesses are such easy targets. So I think it's just important that they understand, like, you should go online and try to remove your home address from these data broker websites, because this is where, like, it's just you, this is where you're running your business. And like, that shouldn't be on the internet for sale for 30 cents from this company, you know? So kind of just working with them to understand the risks that are involved with their business. It's not as intense, I would say, as if you were in a corporate cybersecurity setting, but like I said, just like heavy on reinforcing the basics, because I was going to say 90%, but it's more like 99% of the time, they don't have anything set up at all and they don't even know where to start, or it just feels overwhelming altogether. One more thing I would throw in there is that I think I also because of my work with Cyber Collective and like the data ethics side, I feel like I've definitely stopped my clients from doing some things that were like slightly questionable, like, hey, like this person didn't consent to being emailed, like we can't do that. So kind of just reminding them of some of the data privacy things that you should be aware of to respect your customers' privacy, and also just the importance of they're trusting you with their payment information, their address. Like you should be protecting it with all of these things like passwords, multi-factor authentication, like using a VPN, again, reiterating all the basics. But
yeah, I mean, absolutely. And you've said so many important things because yes, like my jaw drops at people or at companies where the password is kind of that five letter word, and it's like beyond that it's like a common word, and the username's not even that difficult to guess. So like my jaw drops at that. But I think so many small businesses don't understand that, like when you create your website for the first time, there's all these privacy things to consider. Like you have to have a privacy policy. You have to, understand, like go with a reputable provider, like you're saying, that already has kind of backend encryption in, and they kind of need to maintain standards because they have certain compliance requirements from an industry perspective. A lot of small businesses don't know that. And I recall even for me, so I mean, I built my website myself. I don't think it's that great, so I might call you after. But, so like I did it myself, but in the process of that, I was like, okay, what's my privacy policy? Like I have to have a pop-up if I'm storing anything, like let's say from a cookie-based perspective, I need to have that for people to accept it and accept what I can keep of them from their browsing session, and then when I take people's information, it's like I want to take as little as possible information. Like if I just have an email newsletter, like I'm even fine if you just have a burner mailbox with some random email address that you send me, because I don't want to be liable for your personal information kind of on my site. I just want to have a way of sending you some cool things when I come up with them, like that sort of thing. Yeah. So it's so important what you're saying. Yeah.
I was going to add in there, the compliance part is huge, because I think people think of the word compliance and they assume that that's only for like the Fortune 500 companies or like the big businesses that have multiple team members. And it's like, no, it's as soon as you are in possession of somebody's data, like you are responsible and there's things that you have to do. You also just reminded me, I had to do my own PCI compliance this year for the first time. And that was like a whole journey. And I honestly didn't think that was something that I had to do either. I thought that like the payment software I was using took care of it. Nope. That is on me. I have to do that every single year. So that's something that I think people just don't think of. And then, of course, being in Europe is like a whole different game. I just got my first client in Germany. So that's like an interesting thing for me to navigate now. And just to, I want to be thorough and make sure that I'm setting them up for success too, because obviously the laws are stricter there. And I love that. But just more things to consider. And especially for small businesses, they're probably not thinking about it. But yes, on the compliance side. And then one last thing that you just made me think of is small business cybersecurity insurance. That's actually something that you can purchase. And I think especially if, not that it's needed in every single case, but in my case, for example, where people are emailing me their passwords or emailing me their card information, which I obviously try to avoid, or I tried to do it on the call, but sometimes it happens or somebody just sends it to me and I'm like, okay, like that's, I have that now. You can actually get insurance so that if you were to get hacked and your clients were impacted, that you actually have coverage for something like that. And that's something I learned in the past year. So just wanted to share that because it was relevant to the conversation.
That's really cool. I didn't know that. I know big corporates have cyber insurance, but I didn't know how lucrative it is for small businesses. So that's pretty cool. I think that's, and I mean, the fines and things these days, like it doesn't matter, right? It doesn't matter if you're a small business, if you're a large enterprise, like you will at some point get fined if you are negligent with people's information, with how you use people's information that joins any of your platforms, or if you just expose it, right? If people can access your website or your systems, and your data, the people's data is just exposed. So I think it's super, super valuable. And if you're not already, you should add it as like a capability in your services. Like
I really got.
Yeah, because it's important and you have that, skill that's like above, like people won't know. And for me, it's so interesting, the number of people that don't know this, right? Like it's one thing to add default credentials to all of your social media platforms, right? Like that's one thing. It's a really bad thing, but it's one thing. But then to add kind of like the same for your true business assets, I think that's super tough. And now I want to ask, so you're a business owner and you now have your first assistant, but you also have people, like you said, you have to log into people's things to manage and integrate. So what's your take on the social media like influencers and then having people post on their behalf, right? Because I will tell you my story. For the longest time, even having many different platforms and things like that, up until this day, the only person that accesses my platform and posts and comments and DMs is me. Because I'm just like, I'm sorry, but no. Like I'm not sharing credentials, especially for something like Instagram. Like I'm never sharing credentials. So unless I have the time to get someone else access some other way with using a social media tool or something like that, I'm not sharing credentials, right? But what's your take? I mean, and what guidance do you have for these massive influencers doing this practice?
Yeah. I mean, that's a hard one to navigate, because if you want them to go in and, manage, actually, I take that back. There is a solution. I would say, although it is my least favorite tool to use ever, the Meta Business Suite, you can actually add somebody in as a manager and they can manage your DMs. And I'm pretty sure they can respond to comments there without you having to give them your actual login to your personal account. You can just add, they won't have the same, like they won't be logging into Instagram on their app, but they could go on their computer and access all the things that are happening on your account. So I would say that would probably be my workaround now if I had to do it. But other than that, you need to vet, and then contracts. You should have some pretty serious contracts that you review with a legal professional. You kind of mentioned it, but even like people sending me passwords obviously makes me so uncomfortable. And I would really prefer that like we're on a call, I just like type it in and it is never documented ever. But trying to like use encrypted emails when you can. I'm pretty sure even on Gmail, you can send protected and locked emails so that there's just like a little extra layer of security. And then as far as like allowing somebody to actually log into your account, you just have to really, 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 really trust them and avoid it as much as you can. I would say with my process automation, I can think of multiple ways where we could allow people to post on your behalf or like get involved without needing access to your physical account. And again, I did mention the Meta Business Suite, but it's definitely like a whole interesting and like so unregulated space. Yeah. There's absolutely zero rules on how to handle that. So yeah, that would be my take on that.
I mean, I have a personal story where someone, like a big brand, they were doing like it was something like inspirational for girls in tech or girls in cyber. And they were like, can you take over our Instagram for a day or something? Like they were doing those things. And then I was like, yeah, for sure. It's inspirational. Like, I love that. I would do that. But I wasn't sure how I would be taking this over,
Yeah.
Like, do I send them the videos pre-recorded to put on stories, like that sort of thing. And then they just send me this like credential. They're like, here, you just log in this way. So just log into our account. That's fine. I was like, huh? Like, yeah, no. Like, do you know what I could be doing with this? This is terrible.
Yeah, that's actually, I didn't even think about the takeovers and how that's handled. That's actually so insane to think about. I want to go ask every single company that I've ever seen do it, how they handle that. Yeah, that's terrifying.
Yeah, exactly. Because when I logged in, I was like legit, I could delete your posts. I could delete your followers. Like I would have it. Like, it's so, you really have to think about these things and consider these things. And of course, like, I'm thinking about that as a security professional. Other people are probably not thinking about things like this, but it is there. It is there. I think it's a super interesting space, but I think you have such, like, your thought process, even like the way you even think about approaching the whole security area in the space of your business is really great. So like, now as a kind of small part-time business owner here, I've even like learned so many things to consider. And yeah, so thank you for sharing all of it.
Of course. I'm glad that you even found it helpful. I'm like the cyber queen herself. Oh my God.
Okay, so now coming up, I want to talk a little bit more about cybersecurity careers, the Cyber Collective, and what you would consider when you come back. But before when you come back, did you see how firmly I said that? Like when you come back into cybersecurity.
I know, yeah. I feel like, especially now that I've had all of these different experiences, there's just so many different things. I really, really like the security awareness space, and I would love to work for like a big tech company and run fun campaigns and like make cybersecurity training not boring, which is essentially what Cyber Collective does. But yeah, I can pause there.
Yeah.
I don't know
Yeah.
which direction you want to go with that.
So I want to go into a section that we call rapid fire. Okay. So I'm going to ask you a bunch of questions and you have under 10 seconds to respond with the first answer that comes to mind. Okay. So if you weren't in tech at all, what would you be doing?
I would either be a meteorologist or a geologist. I love weather and like earth sciences. Yeah, that would be I say that all the time. That would be my career.
Wow. Nice.
Yeah.
Okay. Are you a morning person or a night owl?
I'm absolutely a night owl. I love working into the night.
Awesome. Okay. All right. So what's your favorite development or coding language that you're using today as part of your automations and process doing stuff?
I would say I probably just have to use JavaScript the most for small things, but luckily all of my automations are no code and easy to manage, which is a huge value add. But yeah, JavaScript, and then I love a no code software.
Cool. Me also love no code. Yeah, definitely. So what would you say to someone that is looking to have their very first website created? What's one of the first considerations that they should have?
I would think about what your website can do, again, just to make your life easier. Like, how can this save time for you? What are the questions you're asking all the time that you could have on there? That way it's saving you time. And then just there's so many things. I want to say just like a little bit clear on branding, clear on messaging on how you want to talk to your clients, and then how you want your website to work for you. I like have the 10 seconds in my head and I'm like, oh no. But no, that's my answer there.
Okay. Let's go with what is one tech tool that you're using that you cannot live without?
I'm sure everybody has their favorite AI tool. Mine is Claude AI. So I no longer use ChatGPT as much, but Claude AI is my favorite for copywriting things because I feel like it's not as formulaic as ChatGPT is. But I am super dependent on that. And then I actually have my Fireflies AI note taker. I literally can't remember things in meetings anymore without it.
Yeah, I mean, we have to talk about this after rapid fire, but okay, we have to talk about that. All right. So what is your dream project? If you could work on any type of project for your business, what would be your dream project?
Oh, that's so hard. I love experiential web design. So I don't know like what the business would be, but I want to build a website where you're literally like flying through the website. And when you scroll, like you're like, all these things are happening. I just love like interactive experiential websites. And a lot of times when I have corporate clients, like they don't want to fly through their website. So I don't get the opportunity to do all those fun things. But I love like when people are down to do something a little bit weird.
Okay. Nice. So this is combined. What's your favorite go-to snack and beverage on a long day where you're just working on one single project? And what do you do after to relax?
Okay. Well, I have my coffee right here. So absolutely my coffee. And then if you're familiar, I don't know, I feel like this is a very American thing, like the Lunchables, like the little snacks. There's like adult Lunchables that are like little charcuterie boards and have like sausage, cheese, and crackers. Like I love having that with me. That's my little like basically a mini charcuterie board for myself. And then afterwards, I've been playing Animal Crossing. I got a Nintendo Switch. So I would say either that or I have been, because I spend so much time on the computer, like doing something that like doesn't involve a screen. I love like doing a coloring book or like a paint by numbers or something that lets me use my hands and not look at a screen.
Wow. I love that. I love that. Okay. That's the end of rapid fire. So I'll add to that one. You did well, by the way. You were like, quick, like with really good answers.
So hard.
Well done. But I resonate so much on the after work artsy type of thing. I think like, if you're a creative, which by the way, for many years, I did not know I was a creative. I didn't know why, like, designing and building things and inventing things were so, like, it gives me so much joy and excitement. And I didn't know it was because I was a creative until I started, like, with my platform. But I'm really good at art and those things. So I also, like, have canvases and I paint, and that is, like, literally the most relaxing. Like, I don't have to watch anything, listen to anything. Just sitting there and painting is so relaxing. So I resonate with the paint by numbers even. Like, it's so relaxing.
Yeah, especially, I mean, I think for any tech professional that spends probably more than 8 hours just like on the computer, it's so nice to do something with your hands. And recently I've like really want to get back into scrapbooking, and like I don't know if you've heard of like the dead internet theory and how, you know, and nothing on the internet is safe. It could literally all be deleted tomorrow, and I want to actually have my memories physical like with me. So yeah, that's my new thing that I want to get into, is just scrapbooking so that I can print out my pictures and have them available to show my grandchildren one day in case Instagram collapses and I lose all of my memories.
Yeah. Now you gave another doom thought there, because for everyone out here who is just leaving this here for later on Instagram, later it might be deleted off the internet forever. Like, someone just unplug it.
Yeah, it could be a solar flare, you know, we have no clue. But hopefully that doesn't happen and it stays forever and ever. But, you know, just in case.
Okay, so let's talk a little bit about the Cyber Collective. Can you tell us a little bit more about that? What is it about? What do you do?
Yeah, so Cyber Collective was started by Tazeen Khan in 2020, or maybe 2019 actually, but right before the pandemic. And I ended up finding her on Instagram when she was just getting started, and I volunteered for 2 years, which was really cool. But essentially, a Cyber Collective helps people understand the impact of technology so they can protect themselves and their communities online. So we're really big on targeting digital creatives, or not digital creatives, digital natives, so people that grew up on the internet who are comfortable using their computers, because realistically, you are tech support for your family. If your mom's Facebook gets hacked, she's probably going to call you, you know, and like ask you for help. So we want to make sure that the people who are comfortable online, or, you know, even if you're not, but primarily digital natives, that they have what they need to then go out and support their community. So it's kind of like an echo effect, so that then they have what they need and they can help their friends and family, and just like so forth and so on. But we do so many different things. There's events, so some are in person, some are in line or online. Create a lot of content about a variety of different topics, a lot on data privacy, and, you know, advocacy around that space. And yeah, that's Cliff Notes version of what we do, but it's been a really crazy thing to enter my life, because it's just like a culmination of all the things that I enjoy. So I built Cyber Collective's website, I built their resource library, I've done content for them, and I've gotten to like grow my cybersecurity skills, learn more, and just contribute the things that I know from having that cybersecurity background. So it was kind of like where all of my worlds came together, and I got to, help them grow there. And last year, Cyber Collective received funding, so that's so exciting. We have full-time employees now, and went from volunteer work to paid work, which is such a major accomplishment. And yeah, the leaders, Tazeen and Kaylee, who are the two that run the company, are incredible, and so grateful that I got to be a part of that.
Oh, that's so awesome. And congrats on the funding. I saw the posts about that on Instagram, and it's phenomenal. Like, I'm like that person that's like, for organizations like Cyber Collective, it's massive, right? Like you just said, the target is for these digital natives and people who just were born and the internet was there. And many people don't have the opportunity to know about basic safety online, the way we, or me, as like when I grew up, basic safety was lock the door, you know. That was kind of basic safety. Now for my kids, basic safety is don't share your password, don't type in your personal information on your online games. Like, I mean, my kids have online aliases in their games, you know, like they even know who they are online. Like, it's never the same person. Like, it's, you know, that sort of thing. But I get that might be weird, but like, it's not, a lot of people don't know this. But the educational work that you guys are doing in terms of consideration for this generation that's just found it there, and that's just, you know, digitally there, is massive. And and I know even like for like my parents, as an example, like I've had to enable multi-factor authentication for them. I've given them access on how to keep their passwords safe, even if they don't want to do it online. Do it this way, that sort of thing. Creating those different ways of people doing things.
Yeah, and it's interesting how I think our personal experiences are what inspired all of us to come into this space. So I know Taz has a story with her dad almost getting hacked, and he is a Bengali immigrant. So even the language barrier is a vulnerability and something that hackers will exploit to try and scare you, especially if there's a whole bunch of different things that can play into, especially when you're an immigrant in the space and in a new country. Essentially, with that part, Cyber Collective also has a really big social justice angle to it. So that's kind of where the data rights, data privacy comes from. And I brought up Taz's story just because, again, immigrants are specifically targeted in a lot of scam attempts because they're not familiar with how the US's system works. They don't speak the language. So there's just so many ways to be targeted, or, I don't need to explain to you, or I feel like most people on this podcast probably understand that cyber attacks can be so extremely targeted and specific that if you're not looking out for them, they can kind of fly under the radar. But you mentioned your mom, and it made me think my mom is a whole influencer, which is so crazy. She's almost at 100,000 followers on Instagram, and she absolutely will send me brand deals from companies that are phishing attempts that are so targeted to her. And it's thank God that, she has me to reach out to. But yeah, that's why it's so important that the ones of us that are on the internet all the time and are our family's tech support have what they need. And then with the kids part, I have a little niece. Her name is Izzy, and I play Roblox with her. And I am terrified of Roblox and the things that are on there, and the fact that it's not segmented to have kids and adults, and that it's just all mixed. And now they have a voice channel where you can speak to the people who are playing the game, and that's so problematic. So it's interesting just having all these real life experiences and how it comes back into the work that we do as Cyber Collective, because now we can create resources for people who are playing Roblox with their children or with their nieces and nephews, or help their parents that are happen to be on social media running their business, and support them in that way. That was a little bit of a long drawn out answer.
Yeah, no, but I mean, everything you say I resonate with so much. And it's not that people don't want to, right? That's the reality. It's that people don't know how. They don't know about the different, I don't want to say opportunities, but the different ways to be compromised, for themselves, for their family, for the kids. So I think there's a very, in my experience, at least, I found with the educational aspect, even it's not that people don't want to, but people are genuinely unaware. I go to just to stick with the online safety one for kids, I go to parent meetings as an example, and parents are so concerned, but they don't know how to approach the aspect of security, and then you have my kid that's no, you will never find me online because I'm someone else. And, we have this whole approval system of the applications. And it's when there's a privacy policy, then it's it says something about privacy here. Do I accept? Yes, no, the probing and enabling that education, from the early onset. So I think that's a deep, deep area, and a deep area for risk for the future. And what you guys are doing so brilliantly by educating now, even for people who will go into adulthood and parenting and all those areas, which will have a different perspective, a different mindset. And then I wanted to say, with all of the things that's going on, in the geopolitical landscape right now and in the world right now, with all of the protesting and rioting and things like that, you have done with Cyber Collective a very, very informative structure around how to do that safely. Right.
Yeah.
So I don't know if you can share a little bit about that information here for people listening on how you do that safely.
Yeah. So off the top of my mind, I mean, such a loaded conversation, because there's so many ways that technology is used to police and track people, and we don't even know that we're being tracked so many times. But especially if you do plan on protesting, turning your phone off, or if you're able to, don't bring it with you, because you more than likely are absolutely being tracked. Covering your face, you can look it up, but there's different ways you can paint your face so that AI systems aren't able to actually track your face. Some people I've seen like write their phone numbers on, or important phone numbers literally on themselves, so that if they don't bring their phone and they do need to call, like you still have that information available. But just being extra safe if you are going to bring your phone about what you share, who you're contacting, just because especially at protests, it is all being tracked. They want to know every single little detail. But going kind of like more towards the social media side of things, I think just being careful about what you post, like where you're tagging yourself. I think this is kind of like where the basics come back, where it's like, don't post in real time. Also, like maybe just don't post the protests at all. Like that's not something that you need to share on social media. You can just contribute to activism without it being on social media, which is a hard thing for, I'm very Gen Z, so I get it. I love living on the internet, but just like knowing like when to be online and when not to be online. I'm sure I'm missing some things, but I feel like those are like the main things that I see shared all the time. It's just don't bring your phone, face paint for AI if you are concerned about that. And then also just being cautious about what you're sharing online, and not just like for your own safety, but think about the other people in your life and how you're connected to them and how that might impact them. Like if your parents are immigrants and you're protesting, all these things are happening, like you will be connected to them and they could even like face repercussions from your actions, which I feel like this is like a common thing. It's not just for the protesting space, but just in general in cybersecurity, people are like, oh, I have nothing to lose. But it's like, even if you have nothing to lose, them getting access to you can then impact your friends, your family, anybody that you're connected to. So you just have to look at it from a broader lens and not just as a like me protecting myself and myself only. Like it really is a collective, we're a community, and we all have to watch out for each other.
Yeah, so true, so valuable, and so informative. Really, it really is. And it's a massive conversation. I feel like we would be here for so many hours. It's really a massive, massive conversation. But now I want to ask, okay, so let's talk about this. You coming back eventually, or you branching out your business into cybersecurity. So what does this look like? What does Rebecca want to do in cybersecurity if you consider this as an option?
If I were to go back, I absolutely am interested in security awareness, just because I think that space gives you an opportunity to also do creative things, not just tricking employees into falling for scams internally and then making them do training, but also just like outward facing. I feel like I see companies like Signal or Telegram, or not just secure messaging apps, but I see a lot of their like campaigns in New York, and it's just cool to know that there is a creative team behind that is working with the cybersecurity company to amplify the message or amplify whatever product they have. So I'd be very interested in existing in that space, just because I see the opportunity for me to bring my cybersecurity knowledge and my like creative passions and kind of like mesh those together. Also would love to do like marketing for a cybersecurity company. That would be fun. So I don't know. I think there's a lot of different things. Then there's a part of me that just wants to go so deep and go technical. And I'm like very, very down to like code and all of the things in that space. But I recognize that in order for me to feel fulfilled in my work, I have to have a creative outlet element to what I'm doing. So I feel like marketing for cybersecurity or like doing cybersecurity awareness would probably be my sweet spot if I go back, or when I go back.
I love that. And I would love to have like, or to see more creative people behind cybersecurity awareness campaigns, even in big corporates, because unless it resonates with people and it understands kind of people psychology, that kind of thing, then you're not really hitting home with your messaging in the security awareness side. Or like with games, like I know of a company that does internal company games for cybersecurity awareness, and it's actually fun. Like it's not those annoying games, like it's actually fun. So that is actually really, really cool and really a lot of fun. So I really like that. I like that approach. So what would you say to people who are creatives, but they think that a place like cybersecurity isn't necessarily for them?
So I would say it's interesting because, again, we were talking about this earlier about like everybody's perspective on cybersecurity, but I would say don't think that cybersecurity is only hacking in a basement or living in Excel. Like there's so many things in the cybersecurity industry, and you can absolutely find a sweet spot that allows you to use your creative skills and like leverage your technical skills. I feel like one, obviously there's always like side project passion projects if you want to go out and do something to kind of like supplement and feed into your creativity that exists. But I would say just ask to get involved in your company. I think most, or at least in my experience that I had, everybody was like pretty open to me, like either contributing or like sitting in or seeing what other people do. So I would just ask if you can do that with the areas that you're interested in. Like maybe it is marketing, or maybe there is like a security awareness like campaign going on. Ask if you can get involved so you can see if that's the right fit for you, and you can make a choice that you're confident in and feels good for your next move in your career. But I would just don't pigeonhole yourself, and just know that there's so much variety, and maybe it's just the wrong company, and maybe there's the right fit somewhere else.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I think also maybe one other thing, which you would have like a lot of input on is considering like all of the online world, right? Because we know there's a lot of cybersecurity roles and jobs, and it comes from all the way technical to the governance-y to the more creative side. But if you just consider kind of the online realm, the application space, that kind of area, what would you say is some of the most important things to know if you want to secure or work in cybersecurity in the online space, like in a small company that is only operating online in a digital space? As a cybersecurity professional, what would you think would be the core things for people to know? What would you advise?
And this is like for non-cybersecurity people, like just somebody that is like, I don't know, say working at like a random tech company. And what would I say? I feel like this is the most boring basic advice, but you can't really build without having the basics locked down. So I would just say like, you really have to drive home like the password manager, VPN, and like being able to identify different types of scams, like especially with AI and deepfakes and all the things coming up. Like you need to feel super confident in the basics before you can even like worry about the more crazy things that are happening. Because I feel like, especially, I know I'm thinking like small corporate business that might actually have a cybersecurity team, like they're taking care of everything that they need to take care of. The one thing that cybersecurity professionals cannot control is humans, and we can't control, that is the biggest vulnerability, where there's like really not that much that we can do other than educate, which I feel like is why most cybersecurity advice is like a broken record, where it's like, just pay attention, please, like get the basics down, like slow down, like there's literally no need to rush ever. Our world is always demanding that you do everything in the next 2 seconds. Like we have time, and nothing is ever that important for you to like rush. So I guess my overall thing would be just really hammer home the basics of, like I said, password manager, VPN, like getting like more aware of the common scams that are going on, and then just slowing down. And if I had to pick one, I would just mainly pick slow down. I think most of the issues and problems come from people rushing and like not taking their time.
Yeah, 100%. And I value that opinion so much, because as a cybersecurity professional, sometimes like me, that's like so deep in architecture and technical and into the cloud, my advice on that matter is sometimes like very different. Like it's very technical, and it's not for the everyday consumer and everyday user and small business. I would be like, make sure your application is secure from the internet, make sure this, but like, how would an everyday person do that? But you saying kind of take care of the basics, slow down, because it really is someone that is like fast clicking through things and then clicking on the wrong thing, and that's an issue. So I love that. It's such valuable advice. So now I want to ask you, tell us a little bit about what is next for Rebecca when it comes to your business, your content. I mean, she also shares amazing content online, has a YouTube channel, Instagram, all the things. So what's next?
Yeah, so content is really high up on the list for me. I've had a few opportunities to work with some tech companies recently, so that's been fun to do some like co-branded and sponsored content. So absolutely want to put more energy there. Overall, I think I just want to share education, especially for my niche of like mid to small size businesses. I filmed 3 videos, or honestly, filmed like 6 videos yesterday. I was on a roll on different things that you can automate in your businesses, and yeah, just like different things business owners can do to like make their lives easier, because it's an overwhelming space and a website is like such a big deal. It's like what finally makes your business real, so people like, you know, want it to be good. But content is next for me. Templates is something that I really want to start working on, so that people don't have to spend like $3,000 in order to get a website. They can spend like $100 and still have like something that they can feel good using and presenting themselves online with. Process automation has been a big one, so just going even deeper into that and finding ways that we can, or that I can like help my customers and clients even more. I took off the entire month of December, and I am just going to be creating that entire month. So, you know, keep an eye out for all the things. I really want to go back to YouTube. I feel like YouTube is my favorite social media platform. So I'll be spending a lot of time there just doing education for people who want to do web design. Of course, like security advice. That's mostly what I filmed yesterday, so that'll be coming up soon. And yeah, just sharing the journey and sharing how-tos, because that's essentially how I was able to get myself to this space. Like, shout out to YouTube and all the people that film tutorials, because it's always so helpful to have, especially as a freelancer where I don't have like a team or like people who are more like senior around me for me to learn from. I really do have to like go through the internet and like sift through advice. So I just want to make sure that like from all the experiences that I've had and all the things that I've learned, that I can now like give back to all the people that have helped me, basically.
That's amazing. I love that. And it's so true. I mean, everything that you know, even if you think it's not valuable to someone else, like someone can learn from you. At least I learned that through my journey of also creating and sharing and all those things. So where can people find you?
Yeah, so I Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube. I am Tech with Becca on pretty much every single platform. Yeah, come hang out. It's a good time. If you have any requests for different type of content, I love like being able to cater to what people need. So I'm always open to ideas too.
Awesome. Okay, then I want to go into one final question, maybe final, depending how you answer it. But so what do you want to be known for? What do you want people to, if they talk about you, think about you, what do you want them to know you for?
Wow. That's a good question. That's a really good question. I would say that I feel like this is what I always refer to myself online, but I would just say as like a digital creative. Like, I'm somebody that like I can create, or how do I want to say this? I'm just a creative person that loves using whatever digital tool is available to express that creativity. So like I said, like videography, photography, web design, and then getting to bring in the security angle. Like, I just love using online platforms to like express, or, you know, technology to express creativity. So I would say I would just want to be known as like an all-around digital creative. Like, I do it all. I do it safely, and we have fun with it. Yeah.
That's amazing. I love that. I do it safely. I do it all. I do it safely. I love that. You might have found yourself a slogan there. Like, I do it all. I do it safely.
I love that.
Well, it has been incredible chatting with you, and I have learned so much, and I think everyone watching or listening has learned so much from you and has thoroughly enjoyed our discussion. So thank you so much for joining. It's been an absolute amazing time having you.
Thank you so much for having me. This was an absolute pleasure. I'm so happy it happened.
This is Cybersecurity Uncomplicated, and I'm your host, Cyber Queen.